Hello everyone, I am Sarvajit Das Chaudhary. Today I am going to discuss about one of the most important and famous topic, that is the difference between IPC and CRPC. I know that many of the students who are studying LLB or who are studying the BLLB, they doesn't feel very comfortable about that topic, because many of the things that is coming out after reading of the sections, that we feel that both the sections are very much similar. So for that reasons I decided to choose that topic, and I decided to elaborate that topic as whatever I can do, actually my best. So before I going to tell about that topic, I want to discuss about that. It's very neat for us to know that what is IPC actually. The IPC, the full form of the IPC is the Indian Penal Code. Okay, so the main thing is that what we would get from the IPC when we read out the IPC, then what we would get from the IPC. That the thing is that if we read the IPC, we can easily identify the crime actually. Okay, what type of crime it is, we can easily identify the crime from the IPC. So for example, that I'll give you the example that one person, okay, enter in a house, pick up all the necessary things or all the expensive things, and just ran away from the house without giving intimations to anybody of the member of the house. Okay, that is the first example. Just concentrate on the example. Then another person enter into the house. He just threat. He just give threat to the family member of that house, and just pick up all the essential things or all the expensive things and just ran away. Okay, and the another person enter in that house. He just threat. He just gives threat to the family member of that house, and just and the force, and on that time the force was exchanged, and on the sudden moment of time, the accused persons push the family member of that of the house, tied up with rope, and then pick up all these essential things or all the expensive things and just ran away. Now my question is, what is the difference between three examples? How can we define three examples with different types of crime? So on the first example, that the person enter into the house, pick up just essentials or the expensive things and ran away, we can consider as a theft. We can consider that the persons committed theft. And the second options, we consider that he just entered in the house. He just pick up all the expensive things and just give threat, and after that he just pick up all the expensive things and just ran away. Here we can easily tell that this is extortions, because the threat has been given. And the third one, that he just entered in the house and just give threat, and just force was exchanged on that third example, and just tied up with the rope, and then pick up all the expensive things and just ran away. In this third example, we can consider the persons commit a robbery. So now the question is, how would I differentiate, or how would I define the three example with three another crime? Only because of IPC. Because in the IPC, when the theft is commit, or when the extortion is commit, or when the robbery is commit, it has been clearly mentioned. So it is very much easily for me, after seeing the situations, that easily for me to identify that thing, actually identify the crime after seeing the situations. Okay, so that is the IPC. Actually, we can easily find the what type of crime it is. Okay, if we do not know what is that crime, so how you can be put that accused person in a trial room. Okay, so that is the things, actually. So you have to understand first of all that what is the IPC. So I have clearly mentioned, and the most and two another parts in the criminology is that CRPC and the Evidence Act. And the CRPC is the things that if I would tell very shortly what is CRPC. The CRPC means the Criminal Procedure Code. Here we can easily get, or we can easily find the protocol. If one person arrested, then how he may be arrested by the police officer, or how he may be tried by the court. All the procedure has been written in the CRPC. And in the Evidence Act, how one person's prove that he commit guilty, or he commit crime or not, or he is guilty or not. That is the things that has been written in this evidence. The core main important three things. So now coming to my topic. So that one second. Okay. So coming to my topic. First of all, we have to discuss about the section 299 and 300. Okay. So little bit of I have to discuss. Section 299 is a culpable homicide, and the punishments is comes under section 304, and the murder is section 300, and the punishments comes under section 302. Okay. In the culpable homicides, the punishments is different than the murder. In the culpable homicides, maximum you can get life imprisonments or up to 10 years of imprisonments. Okay, but in the murder, either death sentence or life imprisonment. There is no 10 years of imprisonment has been given. Okay, so now the question is that the first of all I have to say that before I going to discuss about the differences between the two, I have to say that the most important common things between the two sections is that in both the sections one person's murder other persons. That is the most important common things or similar things between two sections. That one person's commit crime or one person's commit murder, and one person is liable for murder of the another person. So it is very much general for the student, that for the questions that then what is the purpose or what is the requirement that the legislative body enacted two different sections, where the similar thing is that in both the sections it is the very much similar thing is that one person's is liable of murder for another person's. Okay, then what is the purpose? What is very much necessary to make both that sections actually? So if we want to find the answer, we have to look back the philosophy of these sections actually. So the legislative define concentrate on that point very much. The legislative define that sections into two categories. Okay, define the crime in the two categories. one is cold-blooded murder, and the second one is sudden influential murder. Okay, let me give you some example actually. So suppose that A sitting on a chair and B sitting on the another chair beside A. Okay, B told something. Okay, so for that reason A become very much aggressive and just throw a paperweight on B's head. Okay, it is the first example, and the second scenario is of that example. A is sitting on a chair and B is sitting on another chair. Okay, besides A, B tells something. Okay, and A didn't show any reactions on that time, but after 2 days, A hit the paperweight on B's head. Okay, because 2 days before B told something to A. Okay, so now we got the two scenarios. The second scenario is very much aggressive. The second scenario is more serious than the first one, because in the first one there is a cause of sudden influential, the sudden provocations on the sudden amount of time, on the sudden provocations, A executed that work or A executed that actions upon B. But on the second scenario, A didn't show any sudden provocations or sudden excitement or the sudden aggressiveness. He just he planned that thing, and then after 2 days, A hit the paperweight to B. So that is more dangerous. So that is called the cold-blooded murder. That is more dangerous than the first scenario. The another example is that suppose that one person beat one child. Okay, one person is beating one child, and the father of the child seeing that thing, and after seeing that thing, the father become very much aggressive and just he pick up a rock and throw on that person's head. Okay, this is the first scenario. The second scenario is that a person is beating a child, and the father of that person seeing that thing, and after seeing that thing, just warning that persons that do not do that again, and just leave that place. And after 2 days, when the father of that child meet that person, he just pick a rock and throw that and throw on that person's head. So that is the two scenario. Here we are clearly seeing that the first scenario was less dangerous from the second scenario. The second scenario, the father planned, the father has taken some time to execute that plan and then commit the crime. So that is very much aggressive. The second scenario is very much aggressive than the first. The second scenario we can call the father is a cold-blooded murderer. And for the first scenario, the father did all these things on the sudden provocations, on the sudden instance of time. Sorry. So that is the two important things actually. We have to understand between the two things. Suppose the another scenario is on a leading case actually, but I just discuss about the fact of that case. On the case, the husband enter in the house in her house and found that his wife was sleeping with her boyfriend. Okay, so he was extremely out of control on that time, and he just murdered the wife's boyfriend. The husband murdered the wife's boyfriend. At that point of time, the court says that the act has been done on the sudden provocation, and it is not a cold-blooded murder, but but it is a sudden provocational things actually. So that is the things. Now let's come to the section 299. I am reading out the sections, and I will I will explain what it says in section 299. According to section 299, whoever caused death by doing an act with the intentions of causing death, or with the intentions of causing such bodily injury as is likely to cause death, or with the knowledge of that he is likely by such act to cause death, commit the offence of culpable homicide. It means that whoever caused death by doing an act with the intentions of having death, that someone is doing any act, and for that thing the one person's dead, and that person who was done that act actually having the intentions of causing death, or having the intentions of causing such bodily injury, and for that thing that the likelihood the other persons may be dead, or may not be dead, or with the knowledge that he is luckily by such act to cause death, commit the offence of the culpable homicide. Or another point says that the persons has a knowledge that if he would do that act, or if he would done that act, then it's very much obvious that the persons must be dead. Okay, so that is the three scenario actually. So the main ingredients point actually in the 299 sections, in the whole para, in the whole sections, the three main ingredients point actually that we have to remember. Then and then if we crack that sections intentions, or if we crack that section's language, then we can easily differentiate between the murder. Okay, so the three main point is where the section says that the person who is committing any crime, or who is doing any act, first of all having intentions of causing death, second number having intentions of causing bodily injury, and for that luckily he may be dead, and three having the knowledge that whatever the thing he is going to do, for that thing the other persons may be dead. Okay, so having intentions. Okay, the second point is having intentions of causing death, having intentions of bodily injury, having knowledge that the other persons must be dead if I would do that act. Okay, so that is the three ingredients that is the main three ingredients of 299 of the culpable homicides. And on the basis of these three ingredients, we can easily define the section 300 when we read later the section 300 murder, that we can easily identify if we compare with these three ingredients from the ingredients of the murder. Okay, so here is some explanations of that section 299 is that some of the explanations is that here is again the same thing has been stated, that if any persons if any persons found that prior any injuries has been made, or any prior injuries has been existed, and the persons go and beat that persons having the injury on that injury spot. Okay, it's know that it's what would I say that actually I want to say that if any there is some explanations attached in the sections 299 where it say that if any persons having the prior injury or having the injury of his hand, and the other persons go and beat on the same spot to that persons, and the persons, and for that thing the persons may be dead, then it's amount to be a culpable homicide. And the other explanation is, it has been shared that if any persons having intentions of causing bodily injury, and for that thing likelihood the other persons may be in dead, then it's also conducted as a is also maybe inculcated as a culpable homicide. And the most important important explanations that has been attached in part in point number 3 actually, where that any persons on the time of giving birth by the mother, the culpable homicide is not commit if the child has been dead or the child found dead on the womb of the mother. But on that scenario, it is amount to be it's considered as a culpable homicide, or it's amount to be it's considered as a culpable homicide when when any of the part of that child has been come from the mother's body, though that child did not take birth on that time, or did not take birth on that time, but any of the part of the body of the child came out from the mother's body, then it's also called that the culpable homicide. And if any no part has been come out from the mother's body, then it has not considered as a culpable homicide. Okay, so that is the 3 explanations that we have to talk about. And then comes to the sections 300. Section 300. Okay, first of all I have to read out the whole of the sections, then I have to decide, I have to differentiate with the culpable homicides. Then we can easily understand that we can easily find the difference between the culpable homicides and murder. Then on the culpable homicides, the first lines of the of the murder, it has been clearly stated that except in the cases hereinafter accepted, culpable homicide is murder if the act by which the death is caused is done with the intentions of causing death. Okay. And the second point, if it is done with the intentions of causing such bodily injury as the offender knows to be likely to cause the death of the persons to whom the harm is caused. Or thirdly, if it is done with the intentions of causing bodily injury to any persons, and the bodily injury intended to be inflicted is sufficient in the ordinary cause of nature to cause death. Or fourthly, if the persons committing the act knows that it is so eminently dangerous that it must in all probability cause death or such bodily injury as is likely to cause death, and commit such act without any excuse for incurring the risk of causing death or such injury as aforesaid. So that is all the things that the murder, the section 300 has said. Now it's time to compare the 300 sections with section 299. So before I start the sessions, I clearly mentions that the main common things between the two sections is that in the both the sections the persons must be dead. Both the sections the persons must be dead on the cause or on the basis of the act which is done by the other persons. So that is the main important fact. So now how can we differentiate both the sections? Now let's see. So here we can, so first of all I have to open the sections of 299, then we can, it is very much easier for me to tell the differentiations. Okay, so the first thing is that if we pick up on the second point of that murder, we can easily find that in the murder it is said that if it is done with the intentions of causing such bodily injury as the offenders knows to be likely to cause death of the persons to whom the harm is caused. Here it is also mentions the intentions of causing such bodily injury, and the intentions of causing such bodily injury is also to be mentioned in section 299. But the difference is that here it is also mentions that such bodily injury as the offender knows to be likely to cause death of the persons. But here the word knows has not been written. It means that in the sections 300, whatever the injury has been given by the one person to the another persons, the persons who has given the injury to the another persons, the accused persons knows, accused persons is pretty much sure that for giving that injury the other persons must be dead. Okay, but in the section 299 it is the injury must be given having the intentions of causing such bodily injury, but for that injury the accused persons not know that the persons must be dead. He is in confusions that the persons may or may not be dead. Okay, but in the sections murder, the accused persons knows that if I would give the bodily injury, that injury to the person, another persons, then the another persons must be dead. I will give you the examples of that thing actually. So suppose that one person A, okay, A is having operations of brain, okay, so B come to A, okay, and then pick up a bat and then hit the positions where in the positions of the head actually, where the B is where the operations has been made. Okay, so it is the highly chance. Then it is a highly chance of B that okay. I am just puzzled that thing. Okay, let me explain very clearly. So my point is that suppose A came from the hospital, okay, and he has a operations on his brain, okay. So B on the certain point of time, B immediately came to A, okay, reach to A, okay, and then pick up a bat and then hit on the operational positions, okay. So it's an positions. So it is a very much sure shearity of B, then after hitting that same positions where the operations has been made, so it is a highly chance that the B that the A must be dead. But if A is going to somewhere and just B reach to A and just pick up a bat and just hit that hit his brain, so it is not a very much sure things actually for the B that the A must be dead. A may or may not be dead, because A on the second on the second explanations, on the second illustrations, A not having brain operations, but on the first illustrations, A having a brain operation. So if B would give the injury on the same point of body, then it is very much obvious for the after beating that A must be dead. So that is the things actually. So the thing is that the first point, second point is that in the murder it is very much sure that the A must be dead. Okay, having intentions of bodily injury, the A must be dead. Okay. And now, if we pick up in the third point, it is clearly mentions that if it is done with the intentions of having bodily injury to any person, and the bodily injury intended to be inflicted is sufficient in the ordinary course of nature to cause death. It is again said the intentions of having bodily injury or intentions of causing such bodily injury. Again, the 299 says that intentions of causing bodily injury and as is likely to cause death. Okay, and here it says that intentions of causing bodily injury and intended to inflict it is sufficient in the ordinary course of nature to cause death. Okay, so the difference is that both sections having the intentions of bodily injury, but in the third point, the murder says that if any person gives the bodily injury to the other persons, and that person is very much pretty sure that whatever the act or whatever the injuries he has been done or he has been given for the it is very much sufficient for that person's death, for the death of that person. Okay, so let me explain with an example actually, so we can clearly understand the thing what I am trying to say. Okay, so suppose that A just ran away his car and just A just ran away his car and just beat B with his car. Okay, that is the first example. Okay, and the second example is that A ran away his car on B's body. Okay, that is the second example. So difference, what is the difference between the two examples? The first example is that A just ran away his car and accident with B. So it is very much lucky. It is very much likelihood that the B may or may not be dead. But in the second explanations, we have seen that the B ran away his car on A ran away his car on B's body. Okay, so so the act is sufficient, is a very much sufficient for B's death. So that is the thing actually. So if any act which has been done and if the act is sufficient for causing death of any persons, so it's considered as a murder, not culpable homicide. So the main point is that the aggressiveness of the crime, how much aggressive the crime is, or the how much aggressive the motive, or the how much aggressive the intentions of that crime is, that has been defined when we are comparing between the culpable homicides and murder. Okay, so now let's go to the fourth point. In the fourth point, if we see that if the persons committing the act knows that it is so eminently dangerous that it must, in all probability, cause death. So here in the fourth point, here it also says that if the persons committing the act knows that it is so eminently dangerous that it must, in all probability, cause death. And in the third point, and the fourth point of the culpable homicide, it also says that with the knowledge that he is likely by such act to cause death, commit the offense of the culpable homicide. It means that both have a knowledge of death to the other persons. Okay, but then what is the difference? The difference is same. That in the murder, the persons having knowledge of death, but whatever the act he may commit, or whatever the act he is intent to commit, that is immense dangerous, that is eminently dangerous, that for that thing, if he would commit that offense, that it is very much obvious that the persons must dead. But here in the culpable homicide, having a knowledge of death, but still there is some misconceptions, but there is some confusions, that having a knowledge that I have a very much knowledge that if I would do that thing, then he must be dead. But some point of time he may or may not be dead. Having a knowledge of that thing, but his knowledge is the 70%. You can say that he has a knowledge of 70%. He is the knowledge of 100%. Okay. So likelihood, the word likelihood is the only word that differentiates between the two sections actually. So, and the certainty of murder is the only word that differs between the two sections. And the whole of the sections, we can easily find that in the murder, whatever the things, both the sections, the ingredients are very much same. That having the intentions of causing death, having the intentions of bodily injury, having knowledge of causing death. But in the culpable homicides, with the three ingredients, like the word likelihood has been present, but in all the ingredients in the murder, the word certainty of death must be present. So certainty of death in the likelihood. So both are the key difference point of both the sections actually. Okay, so that is the sections actually. So there is no any the difference between the two sections is that the likelihood, and there is the chance where may or may not be dead of the persons, here must be dead. Whatever the act he may be commit, the persons must be dead. Is a high possibility. Is a 100% possibility that must be dead. The persons must be dead. So that is the difference. I hope that I can clearly explain that what is the difference between the culpable homicides and murder, and there is no any such things that I have to mention. Yeah, has certain exceptions is there. Here is some one little things that I have to mention, that certain exceptions is also there, that in the murder, section 300 murder, then certain exceptions is also there, where if any persons commit any crime, however it the crime may be immense dangerous or eminently dangerous, the persons may not be convicted with the culpable with the murder, but convicted in the culpable homicide. Certain exceptions is there. Then the first exception is provocation. If any persons done any act with the sudden provocations, that for the example that I have said before, that one person enter in a house and see that his wife is sleeping with her boyfriend, and on the sudden point of time he just lose all his self control and just kill the person, kill the wife's boyfriend, kill his wife's boyfriend. So in that case he done act with the sudden provocation and not in a cold-blooded not in a cold-blooded murder actually. So here we can consider as a culpable homicide is not murder. Then here is some another explanations of these provocations. I have to discuss very shortly, that there is some conditions that has been clearly explained in the sudden provocations, when any person is takes the defense of the culpable homicides, then on the provocations, then the person must be proved on the three things, that the provocations must not be created by self. Okay, so I can't provoke me, or I can't provoke if I kill someone and I can't take a defense of provocations, and I can't tell to the court that the provocations must be created by me. Okay, so that's not gonna be happen. Then anything absence of the law public. Okay, the second point is that if any public servants, or any public servant is a police officers, or any of the legal authority or the legal bodies persons is doing any lawful act, okay, and for that thing, if and while he is doing any lawful act, and the other person who is standing besides the public servants sudden provoked and kill that public servants, or kills or kill someone else, then he can't say that after seeing that public servant's activity, I am just provoked, the public servants provoked me. He can't say that thing, because the public servant is doing his job. Public servant is doing whatever things he is doing lawfully. Okay, and the 3 points is that the lawful exercise, or if you can't exceed the private defense. Actually, on the private defense you can't kill one person. Actually, you can't exceed the private defense, exceed the rights of the private defense. So that's the 3 explanations that has been given. And the second point, so the second point is self defense. Okay, if you done any act on your self defense, or on self defense, then it is called the culpable homicide. It is not murder. Actually, if you exceed your self defense rights and kill that person, then it is called the culpable homicide. It is not murder. Then public servants, if any public servants while he is doing any act, he kill one person, suddenly he kill one person, then it's considered that it is a culpable homicide. Is not murder, and not murder. It's an example that if a public servant or a police officer arrest one person, and he just taking away to the jail, and on that time the accused persons has intended to escape from the police van, and while the accused person is escaping, the public servants throw a bullet on his head and not on his leg, or not or not giving any prior intimations or prior intimations, or not asked to that accused person to stop. Then on that time it's considered it is a culpable homicide, it is not murder. And the another point is that and the sudden fight, when the two persons, or the group of the persons was is involving with the fight, or with any arguments, and suddenly one person commits any crimes, or one person kill someone, then it is called then it is considered as a culpable homicide. It is not murder. Then the consent. It is a very much interesting points actually. If any person gives the consent of his death to the other persons, and the other persons done the act according to that person, according to the victim, then it is also considered that the accused person commits culpable homicide. It is not murder. That for example, that if any person sorry, if any persons done any if any persons gives consent, A give consent to B that you can kill me, and B kill A, then B commits culpable homicide. It's not murder. Okay, so I think that is the end of these sessions. I think there is no any such things that I had to mention. All I mentions, and I try to differentiate between culpable homicides and murder, and I think I can do that. So okay.